The Colorado Buffaloes have a chance to make a statement in Orlando, but there's three things they absolutely need to do in order to win that game.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you are able to stay up to date. And thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. We had a really fun episode yesterday where me and Scott Proctor talked about all the things that people are confused about with this game, which is the line being so big and all that. Today, I'm going to focus on what Colorado needs to do to win. There's three things that really have stood out to me the more I dove into UCF, the Knights, the Fighting Gus Malzahns, if you will. So I have three keys. I have an honorary key that I think I've said it every week and it just doesn't happen. So I've kind of given up hope that it will happen, which is Colorado starting off strong. They just don't do it for whatever reason. And eventually it's going to come back to bite them. I think a lot of people are getting caught up in the fact they're like, oh, they scored a touchdown against Baylor in the first quarter. Yeah, that came with like a minute left. They also have obviously started as slow as possible against Nebraska. Colorado State held them scoreless in the first quarter. And then North Dakota State also kept up with them in the first quarter as well. And in the first half in general, they were up 20-17 at halftime. So starting fast, it's something that I would like to see Colorado do, but they've yet to prove they can do it. So we will just have to wait and see if that's a thing. So here's my actual three keys. Well, for starters, you have to force KJ Jefferson to beat you with his arm. And that's not something that he has shown he could do. That's not something that UCF has shown they want him to do. UCF ranks 95th in passing offense with 195 yards per game. And so you must be wondering, where do they get all their rushing offense? Well, where do they get all their other offense? I kind of just spoiled it for you because I was a little excited to make that point there. But they are ranked as the number one rushing offense in college football. They average 375 yards per game. They have 13 rushing touchdowns on the year, which for reference, that is more touchdowns than Shedeur Sanders has passing touchdowns, which is pretty crazy because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and Colorado has one of the most prolific offenses in the country. So you have to make sure that you are not allowing them to beat you with the run. You have to make sure that RJ Harvey is contained, which Colorado's run defense is much improved this year. I'm not taking that away from them. But again, we saw Nebraska kind of lean on the run a little bit, right? Nebraska was able to they didn't have anyone that really dazzled, but they did rush for 150 yards with two touchdowns on 4 yards per carry, and they kind of used the run game to wear Colorado down and open up easier throws for Dylan Raiola. Now, this is a different offense. This isn't a rushing attack to open up anything for the passing attack. This is a rushing attack that they want to run it down your throats repeatedly. So don't let them do that, right? Get them into third and long situations, get them into situations where RJ Harvey is just not able to get space and make you pay. That leads me to my next point. You have to get UCF off the field. And so you're probably wondering what that means. Well, third down conversion percentage, UCF is one of the most efficient offenses in terms of getting a first down on third down. They are fifth in the country and they convert 57% of the time. So it's not a 50-50 shot of them getting a first down on third down. It's literally almost a 60-40 chance in favor of them. So you have to make sure that you are able to get off the field, because if you're not able to get off the field, they're going to kill you with the time of possession. They're going to eat you up with the run game. They're going to beat you down, because if you guys weren't aware, they have a really good rushing attack. And I feel like I've kind of mentioned that already before, and you guys know this. So Colorado needs to get UCF off the field. Otherwise, it will be a long game. Also, UCF dominates time of possession all the time. I think they have the ball for, I believe it was an average of 32 minutes per game, which is a very long time. So that's the second key. So you got to make sure that KJ Jefferson has to beat you with his arm, because he hasn't shown he could do that. I don't think he's a polished passer, even though he's in, I think, year 5 of his career. It's just not his game, right? He's someone who he needs to utilize his legs in order to be it's year 6, excuse me. He spent 5 years at Arkansas. in order to be someone that beats you with his arm, he needs to utilize his legs, which obviously I think part of slowing down UCF and getting them off the field is making sure that you don't get beat with the quarterback draws. Sawyer Robinson beat Colorado with them. I think North Dakota State had some nice quarterback design runs that really hurt Colorado. So don't let KJ Jefferson get hot with his legs. Otherwise, he will beat you with his arm because it'll be that much easier. And then don't help them out. You're probably like, well, obviously, let's just look back at that Baylor game, right? Special teams atrocious. It was not what Sketch said. It was not special teams, special players. It was special teams, disastrous plays, and everything in between, right? They gave up the 100-yard kick return for a touchdown. I know Baylor had I think it was like a 50-yard punt return that they didn't get anything out of it. But gosh, that can't happen, right? You cannot allow this offense to, one, back you down into a corner, and two, you don't want to give them extra points where if their offense is struggling and they're scoring on a punt return or a kick return or whatever, you don't want to give them any extra momentum. Plus, UCF is one of the most disciplined teams in college football penalties-wise. They only have 14 in their first 3 games, whereas Colorado has twice as many, over twice as many with 30, which ranks 102nd in the country. So don't let them beat you with special teams. Don't let them bait you into penalties. Do not give them extra plays, extra points, whatever it is. Do not allow for this Knights offense or defense to really have an advantage over you because you're making silly mistakes. And I think this Colorado team has struggled with discipline in these 2 years under Coach Prime. Not like off the field, but on the field, they are a very undisciplined team. And we're seeing that again this year. I think they're more disciplined this year, but at the same time, clearly ranking 102nd in the country is not going to get it done. When we come back, we are going to talk about how they match up. I'm going to compare them stat for stat in every major category so that way we can determine who has the advantage. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And it's all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're almost at 6,000 subscribers. We're just a couple hundred away from 6,000. Let's get there. I appreciate the support. Thank you guys again for making me your first listen. Let's go through it. I will keep tally and we will just sort of just observe how these two teams match up. Now, I want to preface this by saying Colorado has played more games. So for negative stats, they have more opportunities to do these. They have more opportunities to have more penalties, and for positive stats, they also have more games to do it as well. But it is worth noting, and I'm pulling up the strength of record and strength of schedule this far. UCF strength of record currently ranks 15th in the country. Colorado's ranks 42nd in the country. Their remaining strength of schedule for UCF is 54. Colorado's 46. Clearly, there's a lot of value in what UCF has done this far. I'm not seeing it. I really am not. Their strength of record 3-0 with wins against New Hampshire, Sam Houston, and TCU, who I think that game says more about TCU than it did about the Knights. So keep that in mind. I don't think UCF's resume is that impressive, but clearly the computer does. Third down conversion percentage, UCF, like I said earlier, ranks 5th in the country with 57%. It's impossible to get them off the field, right? They're going to make sure they are in position to run the ball to get that first down conversion, and then they will get the first down conversion, keep their drive alive. So really hard to get off the field. Colorado, not bad, 45th in the country, 44%. Third down defense, which is where that initial stat matches up. Also, we got to give UCF the 1-0 advantage there. Third down defense, Colorado gets the advantage here. Their defense only allows the conversion 35% of the time compared to UCF's, who's 40% of the time, which that 5% is the difference between Colorado being ranked 55th and UCF being ranked 93rd. So now it's a little 1-1 action. Penalties, advantage UCF. They only have 14 on the year. They rank 11th in the country, whereas Colorado has 100, or they rank 102nd with 30 on the year. So now we're at 2-1 UCF. Passing offense, Colorado ranks 5th in the country, 2-2. They average 335 yards per game, whereas the UCF is 95th in the country with 195 per game. So we got 2-2's the advantage, or 2-2 all. Passing yards allowed, Colorado ranks 72nd with 208, which I think that's a lot. A lot of this is attributed to how their defense is schemed up. Like, I think they still make plays. It's just they're playing a lot of man coverage, so there are moments where they give up big plays and stuff like that. So I think it's less indicative of how good this team is, because I do think that Travsi Hunter and DJ McKinney are forming one of the better cornerback duos in college football. But they still have the advantage over UCF, who ranks 94th. So Colorado, get that passing attack going, right? Get that passing attack going, because this is the defense to do it against. Rushing defense, Colorado, 82nd in the country at 150 yards. UCF is 4th in the country with just 64 yards allowed. Granted, they played against TCU, who likes to throw the ball a lot, and then they have two cupcake wins to open the year. So now it's 3-3 in terms of statistical comparison here. Sacks allowed, Colorado's offense line is again one of the worst in the country. They rank 130th with 16 allowed, and UCF ranks 27th. UCF ranks 27th. I think I have I believe it's just 8. I believe I messed up the number there. But yeah, what we know about this Colorado line is I think they're better than last year in certain ways, but at the same time, it's not a lot better, right? Because Shedeur Sanders was just sacked the most times of his career against, not UCF, against Baylor. And Baylor liked to get really tricky on defense, so I understand why that was tough for Colorado to slow down. So UCF has given up 18, or excuse me, they have not given up 18 sacks. They've given up 3 sacks. I was looking at the sack yards allowed. They've only given up 3 sacks, which I think a part of that is a testament to KJ Jefferson, whereas Colorado has given up almost 5 times, basically 5 times as many sacks as UCF. So KJ Jefferson will not let you bring him down. Whereas Colorado, they struggle to protect Shedeur Sanders, even though he is pretty mobile and even though he is making plays back there to sort of keep drives alive. And I think he needs to use his legs more, which I think we saw against Baylor, and I hope he continues to do that. Otherwise, he will continue to take a beating, because this offense line, it's just not where it needs to be right now. Okay, sacks in terms of like how many the defense gets. UCF ranks dead last in college football with 1. Colorado, not far ahead of them, they rank 108th with 5. I don't think we're going to see a lot of pass rush from either of these teams this game, and it'll be basically quarterback on quarterback, Shedeur's arm versus KJ Jefferson's legs, and we're going to see which one of them is better at the end of the day. Time of possession, UCF ranks 26th. Like I said, they have the ball for around 32 minutes per game. Colorado ranks 95th. So sacks allowed was, I forgot to keep my tallies here. So it was 4-3 advantage UCF, then 4-4 Colorado. Now it's 5-4 advantage UCF. And now we're moving on to turnovers gained. This is a push, so it'll still be 5-5. Passing yards allowed, advantage Colorado. They've only allowed 208, whereas UCF has allowed 238. So now it's 6-5 Colorado advantage. And so Colorado does have the advantage here. Well, actually, it's probably a draw because I forgot to factor in rushing offense, which goes to the UCF. So 6-6. So the 12 major statistical categories that I'm looking at, these teams are very, I won't say evenly matched, but it's like they're very, like, one team's good at this thing, the other team's not good at that thing. Or one team's really good at this thing and the other team's not so good. So it would be a really interesting test to see which one of those, whether it's like, is it going to be Colorado's passing attack that wins the game? Or is it going to be UCF's rushing attack that wins the game? Is it going to be UCF's defense that steps up? Or is it going to be Colorado's defense? There's a lot of questions that we're going to have answered on Saturday. Plus, as people have pointed out in the comment section, which, sorry, I'm not a meteorologist. I didn't realize that there was a hurricane hitting Florida pretty much everywhere. But Orlando is currently on tornado watch, and we'll see how this affects the game on Saturday. It's supposed to be extremely hot, 88 degrees, which is in Florida. That's humid. There's also a lot of chance of rain, and it's windy. Right now, the winds in Orlando are 22 miles per hour. So if this game is wet, super windy, and cold, maybe Colorado struggles to throw the ball a lot, right? Maybe Shador can't go deep because the ball is just going to get taken into the stands or whatever. So a lot of questions will be answered. I think this is definitely one of the more intriguing matchups of the weekend. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Travsi Hunter's comments about Richard Sherman, who said he's not good enough to play receiver at the NFL level. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by Prize Picks. Let me tell you everything you need to know about Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. You only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September 4th. 4 weeks of free W. So don't miss this deal on Prize Picks, because it's gone when September ends. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Also, you can play along Prize Picks icons like Drewski, Joe Budden, MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley. They do it all. You can find their picks under the community plays under the promos tab of the app and view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Pick community each week. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONCollege on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. We are almost at 6K subscribers, which is awesome, and I would love to get there. Let's talk about Travsi Hunter and Richard Sherman. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Richard Sherman is, he was the leader of the Legion of Boom, the Seattle Seahawks secondary that I could be wrong. It was the best secondary I saw in my lifetime. Keep in mind, I just turned 25 in September, so I could be wrong. There could be a better one out there. Maybe the Steelers one with Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark, those fellas. But I think the Legion of Boom was the best I've seen. And Richard Sherman was at the focal point of it. Richard Sherman also has a wide receiver background. He played wide receiver at Stanford before switching to corner. And he was a really good receiver too. So the other day he was on the St. Brown's podcast, which is with Amon-Ra Equanimous, I believe is how you say it. And they were talking about Travsi Hunter. And Richard Sherman said basically that he thinks there's no way that Travis can play offense and defense in the NFL, because NFL offenses will tire him out just by having whoever he's covering run a go route or run these long routes where he's sprinting down the field, chasing them. And so that way, when on defense, he's tired and he can't cover. And he also said that he's not that special at receiver. He said, I think he goes as a corner just because receivers his size. He's not a special size, super dynamic route runner. He's a great athlete and he's so smooth, so he could get it done. I'm sure if he focused on receiver, he could be elite, but as a corner, he just looks natural. It's back to catching the ball. He's in position all the time. He's breaking right. He has a good feel for it, and it's so rare, which Hunter said, stop speaking on me, let me play football. At the end of the day, I've talked about this before. I think this is going to be one of the most controversial NFL draft prospects or NFL draft, talking points, probably more so than which quarterback will go first, because we don't see guys play both ways in the NFL. Patrick Peterson, who literally did play both ways in the NFL for a little bit with the Cardinals, he said that it won't happen. He said an NFL team won't let him do it. I kind of agree that they won't let him do it full-time. Now, I do think they'll figure out a way for him to be on the field both ways. I think they're going to figure out some packages on offense or packages on defense where he's out there. But when you look at the NFL, they're paying these guys to be the face of their franchise. And so will they let him just be on the field for 100 snaps a game? I'd probably side on the side of no, because that's more opportunities for him to get banged up. The NFL season is longer by 5 games at minimum. And it's just one of those things where it's like you don't want your best player at risk of getting injured every single week. So while I do think that Richard Sherman, I think he's kind of underestimating how determined and how much Travis wants to do it. I do think there's some validity to what he's saying, not because I don't think he's a good receiver. I think Travsi Hunter could probably be the best receiver in this class if he wanted to be. But I do think there's some reason to err on the side of caution, right? You just don't want Travsi Hunter getting hurt, and it's as simple as that. So You guys comment below. Will Travsi Hunter, 1, play both ways, 2, play receiver and or corner, or play receiver or corner, or 3, will he sort of be like a package guy on offense? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. This has been another episode of Locked On Buffs.